Let's go to the next question, number 7. This is from Monster M. This is from is Matthew 28 verses 18 through 20 calling for all Christians to leave their respective countries to share the gospel, or just some? How can I tell if I'm to leave my home country to share the gospel? And this is actually this is one of those questions that I struggle with at a younger age. I remember Keith Green. Okay, some of you guys, you know who Keith Green is. And I actually really like Keith Green a lot. Just a real on fire for Jesus, really passionate young musician who died many years ago, but it was part of that whole Jesus movement, right? And he has some really cool songs. And they're not like modern music at all, but you guys might look it up, Keith Green songs, and check it out. So I'm just laughing because I know my wife would hate that kind of music, not like she's unspiritual. It's the music style she hates. I'm so flexible to enjoy just about any kind of music, that I just listen to lyrics mostly. And lyrics are what I care about. So that's what I like about Keith Green is his lyrics. But if you're a music person, not a lyric person, then you might have other opinions. All right, so Matthew 28 verse 18 through 20 says, and Jesus came and said to them, by the way, Keith Green, the reason why I brought that up was because he told people that in this passage, Jesus commanded us to go, and unless you've been specifically told to stay where God has you, you were commanded to go, and everybody should be a missionary and leave where they live and become a missionary. That was at least my understanding from the things that Keith Green said. Like I said, he was super on fire, willing to do anything for Jesus, but did he understand this verse right? And I think the answer is going to be no. So let's read it again. Jesus came and said to them, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I've commanded you. And behold, I'm with you always to the end of the age. Let's stick on that verse, that part of verse 19 right there. Some people think the command is go, which means whatever nation you're currently in, you have to leave to a new nation. But wait, is that what was Jesus's emphasis on go? So, for instance, let's say you live in Peru, and you read this verse and you think to yourself, I have to go. So you move to LA, where I live in LA County. So you move to LA, and you're like, I'm going to be a missionary in LA. But I live in LA, and I read this verse and I think, I have to go. So I move to Peru. Here's the problem with this equation. We will both be less effective missionaries outside of our language and country than we are within our own language and country. The question is whether we're on a mission or not. That's an issue. Am I preaching the gospel to anybody in my life? That's a different issue. But if I'm preaching the gospel, I will have more impact when I know the language and I understand the people better, generally speaking. Is not wherever you live, right? Monster M. You guys have to look at it. It's hard to I don't know what that word means. So your question, what nation do you live in, right? Because you live in one of these, all the nations. That's it. You live in one of those nations. I think the emphasis here for all Christians in verse 19 is that we should be preaching the gospel to everybody. But why this verse was especially important for the first apostles who heard it is because up until verse 19, they had been told not to go to the Gentiles. This is super important. Read the gospel straight through, and you will totally see this. They only go to Jews, and it's a rare exception when a Gentile or a centurion or somebody else gets help who's not Jewish. They go to Jews over and over again because Jesus is the Jewish Messiah, wants to establish the theology of Christianity, wants to show God's fulfillment to like Romans 1 says, to the Jew first and also to the Greek, right? It was to the Jew first throughout most of the Gospels. And then here at the end, Jesus is like, now that I've died and risen, now that the fullness of the gospel has been revealed, I want you to now take this message in its Jewish context, assuring proper theology, fulfilling God's promises to his people. Now I want you to take this to all the world. The point of Jesus' statement is the gospel is for all people. It is not just for certain people. Take it to everyone. Take it everywhere. But where you're at right now, without moving out of your country, is one of those places where the gospel is supposed to be taken. Nothing wrong with you staying there and preaching to your local community. That's my understanding of it. All right.